Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 9th of November, year 2022. I hope everyone is doing well and start of the fall season, or we just finished celebrating Halloween here, right, in the US. So just recuperating from all the Halloween festivities that everyone had. I'm going to welcome the people that are available on the panel. I'm hoping all the other panel members join eventually, but we have Patricia here. Good evening, Patricia. She's part of our regular, part of our group meditators that meet on a regular basis on Fridays. And we meet for group meditation for Europe at 7:30 p.m. London time every third Sunday. So this is like a public services announcement. So every Friday for the US at 8 p.m. Actually, we start a little bit early. So is it at 8:20 p.m. Eastern, right? 8:20 p.m. Eastern. And then we go for an hour in meditation. And then I'm going to welcome Dennis as well, who is beginning to join us on a regular basis on the Facebook Live Q&A panel, as well as during our group meditations. Let me bring up the question for today. Here, Patricia, you can start. The question is, what does ET say about regrets? I know the past is the past, but what is the teaching on regret? Even when I bring myself present and accept I cannot change the past, I can stop the regret of having hurt someone, and perhaps more selfishly, the consequences I'm now suffering as a result of my actions. To be honest, I've probably hurt myself more while trying to hurt another, and I don't know how to get past it. Of course, I think it served me right, but that doesn't help. Just can't get past it. And it's weighing me down. So you want to take a shot at it, Patricia, and I'll go to the group and tag everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam. Very good question. Very good question. It's all tied to pain body. That's how I immediately saw it, because you kind of can have a regret if you're living in the present moment, because your focus and attention is on what it's now. So regrets are really judgments of ego based on the past. And once you understand that you acted in the past based on your level of consciousness, it was what it was. So there is, at that moment, you don't necessarily have to even forgive, because just having that awareness that it's gone, it's an illusion. So in a sense, thinking of the past like having any judgments about it means that it's the ego mind acting out. Just get back to the present moment and use the regret coming up as the pointer. Oh, okay, so that's the ego trying to get me back in the past, back in my pain body. It's trying to feed. Let's not feed it. And I know that Poonam helped me huge with that, because I had many regrets and judgments upon myself. So when they were coming up, I would say to myself, change. So you're starting to observe your mind, you're witnessing it's coming up. Oh, it's an old thought. It's just recycled regret about past. So I'm not in the present moment, so change. And just concentrate on breathing, anchor. I know it's easier said than done. But it's a practice. So don't beat yourself up for having regrets. This is just a sign that ego comes up, and just almost be thankful for it. Like not almost, just be thankful for it. It's a shift of thinking about it. Oh, I have a regret. Thank you for reminding me that I'm not in the present moment. Let's get back to the present moment. They will honestly disappear. Just keep doing that. It's that metaphor of, or comparison to looking at the stick drawing in the sand and the waves wiping it. So initially, imagine that regret would be like something drawn on the sand on the beach, and then each time the present comes, you realize you're in the present moment, it wipes it, and then it will reappear again, and you will wipe it again. And after a while, those regrets will just dissolve, because they're illusion. They are an illusion. So the light of consciousness will just make them disappear, because they're not real. It's something pain body's trying to keep you in, feed your pain. You're beating yourself up on judgments, but it's human nature, ego nature to just do that. So just knowing that, just observing that and knowing the regrets, the question means that you're already noticing it. So that's huge. So now just the next step would be to be grateful and just work with it. Use it as a pointer to get back to the present moment. Start breathing, getting sensation in your hands in that moment. And it only takes, 16 seconds really for any of those emotions to disappear if you don't feed it. So just sit with it for 16 seconds and then we'll be gone. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Patricia. What you said is correct, that it has to, just 1 second. Somebody message, so I'm just gonna see. Okay, that's Christina. We moved an hour back, and I think Christina joined or tried to join an hour. So one of the things I wanted to let everyone know, our deepest apologies. Here in the US, we moved an hour back. So now what used to be 7 p.m. Central Time or 8 p.m. Eastern used to be before 6 p.m. and 7 p.m., right? Is that correct?
No, everything went back to normal, Poonam, because other countries they also moved.
But it may not be so in Argentina. She's in Argentina.
But Argentina is our...
No, it's in South America, right? So they may not follow the same thing. I think during a certain period of time, Argentina becomes like 2 hours behind us or forward, something. I'll look up on their schedule, but I wanted to apologize about that.
Also, thank you for saying something. As far as the Sunday timing, you said that we're meeting at 8 p.m. Eastern. No, it's 2 p.m. 2:30.
It's 7:30 p.m. London time.
Yes, London, but you said Eastern time. So I thought maybe it was just a confusion. Eastern time you meant by US Eastern, right?
No, I meant London time. 7:30 p.m. London time. It is actually 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes, I want everybody to understand,
Yes.
because the last sentence you said it's 8 o'clock Eastern.
Eastern. Okay, sorry.
So
maybe because I was repeating everything in Eastern time and trying to convert, because I'm in the Central time zone. All these time zones, confusing. So as far as regret is concerned, you are very right. It is the ego trying to keep itself alive, right? It's a thought that is saying, and it's not so much what the ego is. Everybody has to understand is all it is a thought that we are identified with. And the thought here is, I shouldn't feel this regret, or I am feeling this regret, right? The identification is the clinginess, or the stickiness is over and over again in my mind arises this thought that I should be regretful of my actions, right? And as Eckhart says, nobody can act beyond their level of consciousness. Neither could we have acted beyond our level of consciousness, nor could the other. So there is no regret. At that level of consciousness, we acted out, we shouted, we were angry. Whatever we did at that past present moment is what we did, and it's over. Now, the insidious back door of the ego is bringing that thought again over and over, that event, the image of the event in our mind over and over again, and saying, like the hook, right? Come think about this. Come think about this. Be identified with this. And that's what this person needs to be aware of, that is the hook, right? And the more we are aware, the more we observe our old self. And that's the pattern, like the old self, that is the old us. So we have to make a new choice. And I love that you brought up what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about in Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He says, the moment you see regret, the thought coming up, you say change very loudly. And he also has a meditation called Changing Beliefs. Maybe I'll purchase that meditation and we can try it. So that also has the same concept, that you say change. When you think of all the beliefs that you're attached to, and you just say change during the meditation. So that kind of like helps. So thank you for that tip, Patricia. The other thing that, one of the things that I picked up during the advanced retreat is what I noticed, what Dr. Joe does for us is, so we would have a meditation at 6 a.m. We would go for breakfast. We would come back from breakfast and Dr. Joe would start a talk. Before he starts the talk, or we would go have an afternoon break or morning break, and then we would come back, he would do a meditation, then he would do a talk, right? Before he launched into his talk, he would, before he would launch into that talk, he would say, now review your meditation, review what you did in, review what you did in your meditation, review what worked for you, review what did not work for you. Do more of the stuff that worked for you, do less of the stuff that did not work for you. Now, what I would say is that applies to our day-to-day life as well. Review your day before, look at the stuff that worked for you and do more of that. Look at the stuff that did not work for you and drop it. Like a hot piece of coal, that's what Eckhart says, right? Just drop it. So that's all we need to do is review, and that's how we improve in our meditation, and we improve in our day-to-day, what we can do and what we cannot do, right? Like we want to let go of the old self and we want to define ourselves as a new self. And the new self has to be somebody who no longer experiences this regret, right? So I'll hand it over to Francesca because she said that her phone may die, and I don't want her to miss, because apologies, Francesca, you already missed last week. So my deepest apologies that you couldn't speak. So I'll let you speak. Thank you.
That's okay, Poonam. Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Because I'm in a loud background noise, so I'm just making sure that you can hear me. And yes, because I'm out of the house, my phone dies really quickly. Anyways, from reading the question, it sounds to me like whoever's experiencing this is, this pattern of regret, and I'm calling it a pattern because it sounds like it's haunting them. Each time something happens that's negative in their life, it sounds like they're associating that negativity with regret because their mind, their ego mind have programmed them to go into this old pattern because they're in awareness. So this is something that happens to all of us as we heal, as we come into awareness of the things we may have done, that we're aware of that may have caused hurt for other people, around us, whether it's family, friends, whoever. We do go through that period where we experience regret and, kind of like sorrow for the things that we've done wrong. We have to be mindful though, however, that as we're going through that period, the ego mind doesn't start to program us and it becomes a pattern. So I think it's really important. I often see regret as with unresolved trauma, because it could be deep, right? Not just the mind being trapped in the past psychological time or future psychological time, because the future psychological time, it plays out stories of what it thinks is going to happen based on everything you've done. So you have to be really mindful in that regards. It's unresolved trauma. So I think it's really, really important in order to dissolve this pattern from happening. I think it's very, very important that whatever it is that you've done, that you come into deep understanding within yourself in relation. So sit with, in meditation, I recommend sitting, and remembering what is it. Pick one of the things that you regret that you've done. And as you're examining that in meditation, examine, the details. What is it that you've done? How does it make you feel? Most importantly, why did you do it? And the reason I'm saying why, because I call why the Pandora box. Why opens up the fact that when even myself, like 9 years ago, my consciousness, even though it was somewhat aware, I was still very unconscious. I operated from my egoic state of mind, my pain body. You told me pain body and egoic state of mind, and I had no idea what you were talking about. Right? So, it's very important. Not only do you move through that self-examination process so that you can come into understanding of why, you did X, Y, and Z, but most importantly, you forgive yourself because of the fact that you did not know. You weren't aware the way you are aware now. So self-forgiveness is important, but you cannot forgive yourself without first coming into understanding. And I have a little formula that I've created. Understanding gives rise to compassion. And I'm talking about understanding of yourself. It gives rise to compassion for yourself. Compassion, gives rise to, it gives rise to empathy, and empathy gives rise to compassion. And when you feel that compassion, then it naturally ignites the ability for you to love yourself and to forgive yourself. One of the most beautiful forgiveness mantras, self-forgiveness mantras that I use myself is the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I actually have a really beautiful, I call it the perfect high vibrational sequence of that mantra that I listen to whenever I'm doing this depth of work with myself. So whoever is experiencing this, please, it's very important that you, like I said, just in summary, regret equals unresolved trauma. In order to dissolve that pain body, it's very important that you understand why you did X, Y, and Z in the first place. Most importantly, you understand it deep enough so that you actually find that love and forgiveness for yourself. And when you forgive yourself and you realize, shoot, I made a mistake. I used worse words than shoot. I messed up, it's easier, because then that way your mind isn't programming you with a new habit of this pattern of regret, that not only causes your mind to go back, and reflect on this past psychological time, but also very, very mindful. It's very sneaky. The future psychological time, right? Because then you go around in life thinking that you're deserving of these horrible things that the mind is creating. It's an illusion for starters, right? So it's, you're going around thinking of these horrible things that your mind's creating, and you're believing them. And because our vibration is what manifests, guess what you're telling the universe, right? I want more of this, because that's what the frequency you're vibrating at. So I wish you all the best. I am in a noisy environment, so you could probably hear dishes and so forth in the background. I'm in a coffee shop. Thank you so much. I, wish you many, many blessings and love and light and all the best in your healing journey. Thank you guys for letting me share.
Beautiful. Thank you, Francesca. Did you want to share, Francesca, last week you did not speak about the manifestation thing. What did you want to share last week's?
Oh, last week's, yes, manifestation. That one is really, I'm going to keep it really simple, again, because I'm in this environment. So in relation to manifestation, the most important thing, and I think I got to hear Kelly touch briefly on it, and I think Eckhart talked about this as well too. Manifestation is actually, I call it, a vertical. It's a vertical process. So when you're manifesting really big things, like in relation to your life purpose, it's really important that you understand, first of all, we all have goals, right? But there's a huge difference between end goals and means goals. So means goals, meaning, so MEANS, meaning because you want to manifest, let's say, more money, because you want to buy a new car, because you want to go on vacation, because you want to do, all these materialistic things, right? Versus an end goal, which is you want to manifest, more money or more abundance, because it will help you, because you have an attachment to, you have a mission, a life purpose. You want to help people, so it's for the benefit of all beings. Versus, that means selfish goal, right? We call it selfish because, well, for starters, when you have means goals, it's very short-term goals. It's not long-term. And also, there's a selfish mean that's attached. There's a selfish needs that's attached to those means goals. So end goals is how you manifest. So first of all, go deep, find whatever purpose it is, whatever brings you joy, that will benefit not just you, but the entire world. And believe me, there's a lot. The portal is so wide open right now. There's so many opportunities and so many projects that are needed in the world right now that needs to be done if we're going, as all of us, play a role in manifesting, a better world, I guess, for the lack of a better word, right? So manifestation is a vertical process. It happens through meditation. So I highly recommend, if you're manifesting or whenever you're working on manifesting, is you go into meditation and you wait for your instructions. So detachment to the outcome is extremely important. The moment you start attaching to the outcome, it's usually a sign that your egoic state of mind is involved, and that will block your ability to receive that divine wisdom that you need in order to know what the next step is to take, right? So for example, synchronicities show up when we're manifesting and we're in that flow of manifestation, and we're in that beautiful high vibration, like 3 birds would fly together and land on your window, all kinds of strange, I call it strange things, because to anybody listening to this, they're thinking, oh my God, she's lost her marbles, woo woo. But believe me, I have stories, okay? Beautiful things happen. The synchronicities, whether it shows up in the form of numbers or animals or however it shows up, the synchronicities do always happen. I guarantee you, whenever you're manifesting and you have a goal that's, you have a mission, a purpose to fulfill. So it's always, again, it's always not linear, because that's when time and everything's involved, and you can collapse time, right? And Eckhart Tolle, I think, speaks a lot about that as well in relation. In fact, Poonam posted beautiful wisdom in relation to collapsing time, right? So it's a very vertical process, and I recommend you plug in. And I know there's been, how do I say this politely? misunderstanding, because a lot of the practices, like say that I've come across externally, like within, like say for example, I live in Vancouver, so like within the community, everybody is focused on, you know, the physical body, like the lower parts of the physical body, you know, and a lot of the practices involve grounding, going into the ground, putting your roots into the ground, and all these different things. I'll be honest with you, I've never really I never felt connected to some of those practices. I've never really connected to them, because every single one of my practices, and you guys know, I have Brothers in Arms Building Better Lives, which was my first huge manifestation, the free program for men. And then now I have the Science of Inner Work philosophy, which is my free healing modality, and tons of stuff in between that. Okay, so, and in both of all of my manifestations, again, everything in that regards, it's from the upper chakras. So my solar plexus, you know, the heart, the most important chakra for me when it comes to manifestation, the heart and the third eye, because, you know, it's the wisdom, right? The heart is the portal through which we receive that wisdom, right? And then, you know, the third eye gives us the ability to see it and to alchemize it, right? But again, it's very, very important that you remain tuned in to the heart. And by remaining tuned in to the heart and listen deeply, be present, even if you don't recognize the feelings that you're experiencing as you're in when you're in meditation and you're doing your manifestation, trust it, trust that what you're experiencing, is what you're supposed to experience, because that's where your instructions come from, not from the mind going, oh my God, I'm going to go do a YouTube video, or I'm going to go do another whatever things they have out there, all these short, you know, I'm going to deliver complicated wisdom in like half a second, you know. That's why we're in this mess in the first place, right? Because it creates misunderstanding. Anyways, I think that's probably it in a nutshell when it comes to manifestation, is trust, trust in the unknown, literally, and do not have any attachment to the outcome, because the moment you start getting attached to the outcome, it's an indication that the egoic state of mind is now in play, and you're no longer in that quantum field where you're, you know, I say you have access to the cosmic library. That's what I call it. But yeah, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Francesca. Eternally grateful.
Thank
One of the things I would say is when we are manifesting something like a car or an object, right? I still feel there's a greater purpose to it, because even going to the grocery store and picking up groceries, we are paying the transportation person, whoever transported the groceries, the person who stocked the groceries, the cashier that took the groceries. The same thing with a car. Even if you say, oh, I'm going to manifest a car, it may not be a selfish goal, because you're paying the car manufacturer, you're paying all the workers that built the car, right? So the way I see every one of my purchases is not so much as I want this, I actually see who all built it, right? So if I buy like a microphone, I go, okay, I'm paying for, you know, so many people go, I want the cheapest, bestest thing, but I want the cheapest, or want something for free. I'm like, no, I'm going to pay this worker somewhere in the factory that put this thing together, some production line that put it together, and it pays their family, right? So that's how I think of how I make my purchases. It's not never selfish, right? So it always is for the greater good. Even if it is a small thing that I'm doing for myself, I always think, what is it doing for the greater good? So,
and that's exactly the difference between manifesting your manifestation coming to fruition versus, you know, you kind of starting a project and not being able to complete it, or it doesn't happen and you get frustrated and so forth, right? What you're sharing from is from the heart, and it's something we learned in, like, it's something I learned in Money EQ. So the emotional intelligence of money, that's the way you think about money, right? You don't think of it, you know, from a selfish perspective, which is what we were all programmed heavily to do. I
Right.
know I was, right? And now all of a sudden, like Poonam, when I go, to the coffee shop, wherever I'm going, I'm like, oh my God, even when I pray, I'm grateful for the hands that created this food that I'm eating, when I'm eating and so forth. So yes, thank you for sharing that, Poonam. That's the emotional intelligence of
Mhm.
abundance mindset, right? And
Yes.
happy money.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I didn't get it out of Money EQ. I just got it out of Eckhart's teachings that you have to be, if you want to know of this abundance, then participate in outflow determines inflow, right? So we can't be saying so many people, and I would urge this group that so many people do everything for free, right? They want everything for free. They want the videos, Eckhart's videos for free. They won't pay. His website is just $20 a month. Pay for 1 month. Don't pay for a whole year. If you think $20 a month, what is it, like $240 a year, that's too much money, pay for 1 month and see what that $20 does, right? That is the abundance consciousness. Like pay for something a little bit, like we've done this in other Facebook Live Q&As. What Seth says in Nature of Personal Reality is pay for something a little bit more. Like if you were going to buy conventional tomatoes, just go buy organic tomatoes, which may be 20 cents more or $1 more by the time you buy the tomatoes. But that in itself is telling the universe, I'm abundant and I'm okay with spending this $1 more or $3 more, whatever it may be. So
Yes, and that I love myself, right? It's that practice of
yes.
self-love too, right? It's putting it into practice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let me move to Dennis. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you for both answers. Dennis, did you want to talk about this regret? Did anything come up for you? And then I know Ken has joined, so I'm waiting to hear Ken's output too. So I'll let you go first, Dennis, since you've been here since the beginning.
I think my internet is crashing.
Is it crashing? We can hear you, Dennis. Do you have anything to share? Okay, Dennis says my Wi-Fi is unstable. Okay, I'll let you speak, Ken. And do you see the question that I put in the chat, which is somebody talking about regret that says, I know the past is the past, but what is the teaching on regret? Even when I bring myself present and accept, I cannot change the past. And I don't know how much of the responses you've heard, but that's what the question is.
Okay, I really don't know enough about it. I didn't hear enough from different people to hear the question. So if I could hear somebody else possibly speak and then come back to me, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
the question, I put it in the chat.
I got on late and oh, you put
Okay.
it in the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to read it for
Okay.
you. I'm going to read
Thank
it
you.
for you.
Thank you.
What does ET say about regrets? I know the past is a past, but what is the teaching on regret? Even when I bring myself present and accept, I cannot change the past. I can't stop the regret of having hurt someone, and perhaps more selfishly, the consequences I'm now suffering as a result of my actions. To be honest, I've probably hurt myself more while trying to hurt another, and I don't know how to get past it. Of course, I think it serves me right, but that doesn't help. Just can't get past it. And it's weighing me down. So one of the insights that I have is like Francesca was saying, the more this person is focusing on oh, I'm regretful of these actions, I'm regretful of these actions, I'm regretful of these actions. As Dr. Joe says, where attention goes, energy flows, right?
Yes.
So the more they're focusing on the regret, they are manifesting more of, it's not that the regret is manifesting, it's more their focus on the regret that is manifesting the pain that they're experiencing, the hurt that they're, what she's saying, she or he is saying that I probably hurt myself more. I probably hurt myself more because I'm co-creating, I'm the co-creator, we are creators. And by holding on to the regret, I'm creating more of the consequences of holding on to the regret, right?
Yes. Okay.
Did you want to
I-
say something? Ken?
Yes. Yep. No, thank you very much,
Thank you.
Poonam. I appreciate that. Yes, the first thing that's coming up for me is forgiveness. Because when I regret or whatever, and if my attention goes to the feeling of what I did, I'm usually not forgiving myself. And then what I'll end up doing is repeating the same pattern. And then I dislike myself even more because I feel powerless. I don't know why I'm responding the way I am. So I learned that I have to own what I've done. And then I have to feel. That's the original, what I call the original wound. So if I can go back and go, okay, when did this start and what happened? Even if somebody did something to me, and if I reacted in fear, or if I reacted in hostility, like you hurt me, so I'm going to hurt you back. And that's usually how the inner child does respond. It doesn't understand any different. And then as we grow up, we're realizing that we're reacting to the same patterns, and we don't understand why we're doing the things that we're doing. And you get to the point where you don't even see it, but other people are feeling it. And then when it comes around with the regret that, wow, I can really start to see and feel, and I really start seeing my mirror in other people. So if I am critical, judgmental, finding fault, that's me. It's like a diversion to the truth. And all I'm going to do is keep repeating the same pattern, not even realizing that I have an unconscious wound that never got dealt with. So it's something where, but once that momentum gets started, and if I can be in the now and really feel it and address it, and then it starts to shift. And sometimes the shifting will get worse, or I'll get uncomfortable because now the body sensations come in. And then in my thinking mind thinks, oh, this means this, or this means that. And then realizing that, again, all I'm doing is recycling the wounding. There's not really any healing done until I actually surrender myself and really, really go into the matter, whether it's meditating, whether it's talking about with others, and then realizing when I'm talking with others, usually what will happen is it will bring up my unconscious beliefs, my uncomfortability. And that's where the healing starts, not even realizing how I'm getting healed. It's just stepping into or leaning into the uncomfortability of different reactions and allowing myself that opportunity. It's magical how that works. And for me, it was really a huge thing to just start talking. And then what would happen is I would get comfortable with that, but then I would start to feel things that felt better. And then it was easier to lean into the uncomfortability. And so it's amazing how those woundings do start to shift. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
I'm trying to read the passage again. To be honest, I've probably hurt myself more while trying to hurt another. I think we've covered pretty much whatever we needed to cover. Another question that somebody asked was, let me pull up the question. Somebody asked, how can we get rid of ego or reduce it other than through awareness or thought or drugs? Francesca, did you want to start on this? How can we get rid of ego or reduce it other than through awareness? I know Patricia. I don't know if Patricia's gonna be available.
It got a
Thank you.
little noisier in here. Okay. If Patricia wants to go first, that's okay. It's really noisy in here right now. Can you guys hear me? Or can you hear the
Yeah,
background
it is.
noise?
Yeah, there is a lot of noise. So I'll let Patricia.
Okay, so
answer
maybe
this
we'll let
question.
Patricia go first.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Patricia. How can we get rid of ego or reduce it other than through awareness or thought or drugs?
I don't think drugs will reduce it or well, so from some gurus' teachings, like Rupert Spira, ego is not even real. So almost like you can't get rid of something that doesn't exist. Just acknowledge its illusion. And the only way you can do it, and that's Eckhart Tolle is saying, is to just shine the light of consciousness. So being aware, you got to do the self-inquiry. That's why you can use the brain in actually going into a deeper and deeper awareness. And then the ego will will be no place for ego, right? Because there will be nothing to attach itself to, but that we need to get to the higher vibrations. Once we get to the higher vibrations, and that's where Dr. Joe Dispenza helps with meditations and actually getting to a different state, different vibration level, the ego will not even appear there because can't reach that vibration. And if Caesar was here, his saying would be grateful. The minute you are grateful, even when you notice ego coming up, be grateful. This is an information for me. This is still something that it's coming up. Another thing I can let go of. Just realizing that everything that it appears and disappears, it's not who you really are. So ego is not who you really are. Any attachment to anything is not who you are. The minute you realize your true nature, the ego will disappear. And I guess the question may be suggesting drugs because it's faster, maybe it's a chemical, maybe way to quickly get you for that momentary release. And I think Eckhart Tolle in one of his talks mentioned that I think I don't know if he tried one of the things or he just learned, but basically you can get addicted to it. This is not the way to go. It's another ego's way to say, oh, let's do it faster. Let's attach ourselves to something else. It's really the only true way. is to really discover, because we don't want to, our aim, as I see it, is not to get rid of ego or to condemn ego or to, make it into a being of some sort. Our goal is to find our true nature. So I would focus on going after our true nature, who we really are. Once you start feeling your true nature, which is consciousness, which is happiness, which is love, which is light. I mean, ego like really disappears because it doesn't exist there. It never existed there. So I would focus on that instead of trying to get rid of something, right? Because it's again putting your energy into a lost cause almost, because it's not really what we're trying to do here. Once we just go into direction of our true nature, so positive, in a positive way, raising vibration, being grateful, just filling your day with gratitude from the very morning, all of a sudden, if you do it enough, at the end of the day, it's like, whoa, there was no ego. Because there wasn't. I mean, honestly, in every relationship, in every interaction with another human being, you feel like you're acting out of love, out of compassion. I'm like, really, ego doesn't even exist there. So that would be my advice. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Patricia. And what I would say is when Eckhart taught the modules for School of Awakening, he said, it's like you cannot teach somebody awareness. It is more like you can teach somebody what are the obstacles to awareness. And as we dissolve the obstacles to awareness, we become more and more self-aware, right? So how can we get rid of ego or reduce it other than through awareness or thought? It's not awareness of thought. You would almost have to be able to have enough. Just awareness of thought is not sufficient. It's more of knowing what is the thought that is sticky. What is the thought that I get identified with? So it's more of an examination. We were watching Eckhart talk about Plutarch, and then he said, he used his hands and he said, right, it's an examination. Like we have to examine the thought and see the content of the thought. Oh, this thought has something like regret in it, or this thought is making me feel guilty. It is filled with guilt, or this thought is making me feel a sense of lacking.
Who is seeing that? Who is examining it and knowing that you're not it? Like that neti, anything that appears, not only examining it, because you just need to be aware where you're examining it from. Like, who is looking at it? And concentrate on that more than on what you're actually looking at, right?
But you need to look at what it is, because you need to look at since we've been talking these past 3 years that we've been doing the Facebook Live, we've been talking about limiting beliefs. So I would say examine your limiting beliefs, because your beliefs are what is sticky. Your belief that the question before we were asking, that person has the belief that they need to be stuck to their regret.
That's right. I agree with that. I agree. You examine, because how else you can find out unless it comes up? You got to let it go, because it's being there for years, since childhood, stuck, programmed. So we need to get it out. In Dr. Dispenza, during his meditation, he lets it out, like, what was my old self, be aware and notice when it appears, but now move to the new one, new image. So he is very aware, but he's still, you need to be coming from the place that you're not getting attached to it again. Like, oh, poor me, being a victim, oh, something happened, the regrets. It's don't let it take you. But in the beginning, when you're not energetically on the higher vibration, the minute you start talking about it, you become it, and it takes you back there, and it might be for days sometimes. So I would maybe not start examining it too much before you actually fill yourself more with the gratitude, the actually appreciation for, then you're stronger in a sense. You have that stronger muscle of presence power to actually look into it, maybe from a different perspective, not getting stuck to it.
Or get rid of the thought that you need to get rid of the ego. Just work on a presence practice, like meditation or breath work, or work on a presence practice like Qigong, yoga, so that the awareness develops, and then you can observe what is your
Right.
conditioned pattern.
Actually, brain changes. I saw on Netflix, they were examining what happens, and I think Dr. Joe Dispenza examines the brain, function stuff, the neuroplasticity of a brain. So if we actually have a discipline of continuous practice of meditation, something in the brain changes. The areas that open up to a creativity, peace, that actually they become more active versus the ones connected to ego and anger and fear, anxieties. So it's actually physically changing. That's why it's so important to practice. It's like a muscle. It's a spiritual muscle.
It's not so much as the brain changes. What he says is, as you unmemorize the emotion, right? You have to unmemorize the emotion. Just like we talked earlier, that by saying change, the moment the thought of regret comes, we say change. Or the moment the thought of guilt that has something about guilt, and we say change, we are sending a signal to our brain that we no longer want to think that thought, right? And suddenly it'll stop firing. And as we are firing and wiring a different set of neurons, we'll create a different set of neuronal network.
But that's what neuroplasticity is.
That's correct, but it's not so much as, oh, okay, I'm just going to change the way I think. It's more like we have to, Maria is asking something. It more is like you have to unmemorize the thought, is what he says. And I can read his exact
no, it's all very fascinating, but it all
he
goes
says
together.
as you unmemorize the emotion, there is a liberation of energy. You move from particle to wave. So that's what it is that's what actually causes the expansion, is as we unmemorize the emotion, there's a liberation. Instead of being stuck in our energy center 1, 2, and 3, we start to expand, right?
But that's what you said, that where the energy, where the focus goes, attention goes, energy flows. So if he is concentrating on new vision or new future memories, he actually creates future memories, which opens up areas of the brains for different firing of neurons, and that's where energy goes. So this is that, my internet is unstable. Can you see me, hear me?
Yeah, you were like, we didn't catch every word of what you said.
I'm agreeing with you about, it's just a different wording, but yes, it's, so the discipline
want to
of
dig-
practicing.
I want to dig into this because it's very key that everybody understand what is this old self and what is this new self,
Right.
right? So every one of and to explain it to everybody, as we do Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, by the end of the meditation, he says, now you're in a new body. Every meditation, he will remind us, remember this feeling, because you're in a different set. By the end, you're coming to a different state of consciousness. And he says, remember. And we used to joke at the 7-day retreat, we would write, remember, because he says, you hear it so many times in a day, right? Remember this feeling, right? He will always say, remember this feeling. And then he'd say, now you're in a new body, in a whole new environment, in a whole new time, or some version of the same. But he says, you're in a new body, new environment, in a whole new time. Now, what is the old self? The old self is the one that had all the patterns. The old self was the person that was, anytime somebody cut me off in traffic, I was yelling at people. Anytime my coworker said something that kind of like pointed at mistakes that I was doing, I was feeling less
That's
than.
ego.
And
That's
getting
reactivity of the ego. Mhm.
right? So that is the old self. So what we are doing is, what we are learning is, and this is what even Eckhart says, right? Is to change how that you are no longer reacting to those things. So the next time somebody cuts me off in traffic, I say, come on, come across, you're more than welcome. The road, you're so much in heart and brain coherence that you're saying, come, the whole road is yours. I don't mind. This road is yours. This
Can I
planet
just
is
say
yours.
something? I have an example from this morning, because I commute every morning, and there is always the lane that merges, right? And people are trying to get in, and rightfully so, because they're getting on the bridge. And I need to be on the right lane, because after the bridge, I'm turning. So I put myself on that lane, but that's the lane where everybody's merging. So that was my work, guys. I was just staying on that lane instead of being, smart and changing lanes and causing even more traffic. So I'm just staying and being patient. But for months, I felt, even though with all my practice and gratefulness and stuff, I still felt every time some like 3-4 cars, because if it zigzag, one car, I'm okay with that. But if some 2-3 cars are trying to push it in front of me, not respecting that one-on-one, I felt that ego. It's like, judging. It's like, how dare they? Why don't you think they're better than me, that they think they can cut me off, right? And listen, it was just like every morning, okay, there you go. And I felt it. This morning, I made a conscious decision as I was approaching. It's like, you know what? I'm going to let everybody in front of me. Whoever wants to go, I guess they're more in a hurry. Bless them. It was like almost nobody didn't want to. It's like people were just letting me. It was like incredible, because I just let it be. My ego disappeared, and I just don't know why today, after so many times, because I finally.
Your old self. When he said new body, new environment, whole new, so you shifted a box. You got into a different kind of person that you are. So we are no longer seeing the person that we saw on Sunday. You're a whole different person. So that's what we kind of, through using Dr. Joe's practice, that's what we are doing, is every time that we do a meditation, We know and we own it. We own that we are in a whole new environment, in a whole new body, in a whole new time.
But you
and that
got to
we-
experience it. You got to immerse yourself. Like me understanding this, I was still resisting it on the level. And that's why it was happening every day until I finally felt it in my entire body. I surrendered. And
Okay.
that's when my
I
Um,
agree with Patricia.
Maria was wanting to say something real quick, everyone. Maria wanted to say something. I'll give her a chance. Thank you, Patricia. Maria, did you want to say something?
Hi guys,
Hello.
I am new. I'm a newbie. I'm from the Philippines. Yeah, I was trying to really analyze and trying to really listen to you. And if I may contribute what I do here, dealing with my ego in my everyday work and all the challenges, etc. What I do is I do self-talk. When I realize that I'm in the middle of something difficult, something challenging, I trigger. I try to separate the act. I try to separate the I as against with uh, the usual reaction, and I do that through silence. It's like not really speaking to myself as if talking with the words verbally, but in the mind, I set myself into a state of being silent and trying to recognize the difference between what is this that is triggering me, what am I in relation or in response to this, how do I not necessarily separate myself, the same time acknowledging the trigger in front of me, but realizing me as to how I would like to respond or not to respond, to react or not to respond in the midst of a silent time when Krishnamurti said silence is supposed to be dealt with sacred, a sacred, a thing to be considered as sacred. So something we contemplate on. And then naturally, as I began to practice this, a level of awareness, acceptance on the things that's happening right before, because we have the ability, I believe, to see it in front of us. We see yourself, we see the situation, there's someone seeing it from within you. And that's very beautiful, a and later on, I realized it helped me a lot. I began to see changes. When I used to do and react this way, because of accommodating that moment of silence, the examining, the seeing beyond what's triggering me, it helped. It helped a lot. I can see the difference. I am not uh, the same as I was. Uh, by the way, I teach, and you can just imagine how stress it would be from time to time. Everything is unpredictable in a classroom of 50 students every day. Thank you, guys. I love you. I love this call. We don't have this. I found you. I was earnestly praying for people where we can speak of the same. And thank you, guys.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for the insights. Grateful for it. Okay, Francesca, did you want to say something? And then I'll go to Ken real quick. Thank you.
Sure. I'll go really quick because I agree a lot with what Patricia said. Actually, I agree with a lot of what she said. And actually, I love Maria's share too, because what Maria talked about is a self-examination process that we must go through That's how we, examine that pain body. She pointed a little bit to that awareness, right? Awareness actually equips us with the ability to dissolve those, egoic patterns that have been built on illusion. And the illusion, right, is how it programmed us to see what it wants to see, because these illusions is how it feeds, right? And these illusions also, created that pain body, and this pain body also feeds on that energy, right? And in pretty much all the cases from my own experiences, it looks like, I can easily say, I think it loves negative energy in that regards, right? It also loves positive energy. So here is the thing, you cannot get rid of the ego. I really, really want to stress this because I've heard it everywhere. I've seen it everywhere. You cannot get rid of the ego. The ego, it's a state of mind through which we actually have the ability to illuminate it. And I wish I was at home, because I would literally take you to the Tibetan Tanka and point out the process, from the monkey being, actually from the monkey, which represents the egoic state of mind, running the show, which is in front of the elephant, which is black. Meaning the subconscious mind is black and it's not yet illuminated, right? And the monk trying to catch up to both of them, right? And so the ego is a state of mind, right? Different states of mind. We experience different states of consciousness, and it wears many, many masks, right? So we cannot get rid of the ego, because the ego actually has the ability, once it's illuminated, to, it's the alchemist, really, it actually has the ability to do that, to bring our creation into fruition in this three-dimensional reality, into form, right? So we cannot get rid of the ego. It's an important part, of our brain. We just have to, become more conscious and aware. What was
I
that?
disagree with you. Of course we can. It's the identification with the mind. We can disidentify with the mind.
Oh, yes,
No?
yes, we can dissolve identification with the mind, but we can't get rid of the ego. Like, it's physically there, it's a part of us. And we can change how we can change your relationship with this state of mind, with this ego mind, by, through meditation, coming into the wisdom of awareness, right? Coming into wisdom and illuminating it, changing its perception, so that we can see the truth rather than the false, reality, what we think is reality.
According to Eckhart Tolle, we can.
Right?
We can get rid of ego. So
I don't like to word it as get rid of. Yeah, because for me, it's like it's still there. It plays an important role, and I'm grateful for it. In fact, one of my practices is I'm like, thank you, ego, because if it wasn't for the ego, I wouldn't have been able to see all the dark corners of who I am. I wouldn't have been able to see the shadow, which it plays a beautiful role of, right? And also I wouldn't have been able to create the things that I've created. So like my healing modality and so forth. So I have a practice where I'm actually grateful for my ego for the role that it plays. And I actually even talk to it and I say, you know what? I'm so sorry I trained you the wrong way because I didn't know, right? Because of the awareness, because, all of the programs were, in my
so like
Maybe
Eckhart
the
Tolle
reality
says,
upside down.
you use it,
Yeah.
you use it until you don't have to use it anymore.
So
Exactly. And that's when we come
I
into
think-
that state of pure awareness. Yeah, like that's what they
I'm s-
describe in Buddhism.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
interrupt everyone and kind of like
Mhm.
clarify. Francesca, what you're talking about, the ego is not the ego. You're talking about awareness. Because ego cannot create. The creativity comes from awareness, not from the ego. So if you say
It
my
comes
ego
from
create-
awareness, yes.
so the ego cannot create.
But
When we talk about
No,
the ego,
no.
when we talk about the ego, it implies that it is an identity that we have developed. And that identity can be as simple as this person before talking about, they were identified with the thought that they are regretful. That's an identity. So your identity that you're the mother of a child, That's an identity. That's your
Yeah.
ego. That's the ego, right? So what Eckhart says is, the way he differentiates is we have a form identity and we have an essence identity. So we will have a certain amount of form identity. We will have, like, I will still like sweets. Yeah, I may not have any sugar anymore, but I do take maple syrup or honey, and I sweeten my sweet, what I want. The sweetness does not go away, right? That is my form. That's essential. For 50 years I've been having sweet stuff, right? Sugary stuff.
Not an ego. It's not an ego.
It's a form. What Eckhart calls it is a form identity.
Right, but you don't take take your like essence out of it, your value, who you are. You don't take it. You just, this is all right.
So
So
understand what Eckhart is saying, right? So he says every person will have some kind of form identity, which he says he is a very messy person. So some kind of form identity is left, right? We never, like, I agree with part of what Francesca, we cannot get rid of the ego. We cannot get rid of the form identity completely. Some part of it stays. But what I want to tell you, Francesca, is I think you're mixing up the terms, because ego for us means you are identified with that part, right? When you're building
No,
an
that's not what I meant. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so be very clear about what you're saying, because
Okay.
the way Eckhart explains the ego to be, it's identification, right? We identified with a
Yeah.
car. We identified with, okay, we are not rich, but now we are identified with being poor, right? Oh, poor
Yeah.
little me, look how miserable I am. I could never make money. I could never pay my bills. I could never pay, I'm always struggling. That's an
and you
identity.
compare yourself. Ego constantly compares yourself. You less than, you equal to. It's like judgments. That's what it is. And we have ability to get rid of it. And I believe that Eckhart did, and Thich Nhat Hanh did, and Fuji did. You know, there's a lot of great gurus out there. Rupert Spira. They don't have egos anymore.
They don't identify with the egoic state of mind anymore, because they've come into that wisdom of enlightenment, which is the wisdom of truth, and they're sharing that wisdom. So they're able to share it without interference of the egoic state of mind when it's vibrating in its lower frequencies, and we're operating,
They're
based on our
aligned.
pain body and
Right.
those, programs. Yeah, so they don't identify with it, but we
Right,
all
but once
still.
you
Mhm.
what's their message, what I'm understanding is, once you aligned with your true nature, with that awareness and happiness, ego does not exist there, because it doesn't, because ego is an illusion.
That's true. It doesn't exist there in that moment of present. That is 100% true. Yes. And so in order for myself, from my experience, in order to not identify with those illusions is, again, I had to come into that wisdom of understanding and be in that state of pure awareness. And for myself, I think I have far more in the journey to go, because I'm finding it difficult to continuously stay in that state of pure awareness, where I'm not going into the egoic state of mind. As a mom raising my daughter in this, world that we're in right now, the temptations are everywhere. And honestly, I'm far from perfect. So to me, it's really, really difficult as I'm living my day-to-day life to not fall into that, I call it like, it's almost like a trap, but every now and again of, the ego arising. And again, this happens a lot when, for example, I'm not doing my daily practice, like my daily meditation. So again, our daily practice is really, really important, our routine, because if I'm not meditating every single day, and I start skipping, more than 2 days, then I'm, again, I fall back into that old pattern. And I'm aware of it, right? Because again, there's a lot going on with my health. When I do the Dr. Joe Dispenza meditation, and he talks about coming in into the new body, I have beautiful experiences during the meditation. And then when it's time for me to open my eyes and I get up, honestly, I feel like, even though I have this beautiful out of body experience, I can feel the poofiness of my physical body, because that's what it feels like underneath my skin because of the chronic conditions that I have right now that I'm trying to heal. So, when I come back into my physical body, even after the most powerful experience, that's what I'm aware of, because I'm in awareness. I'm aware of how poofy and uncomfortable my actual physical body feels as I'm in it, as I land in it. And it feels that way because of disease, right? And so
But
yeah, that's for
Poonam,
me
do
in
you
a
what
think
I would,
nutshell.
what
what I would say, Francesca, is you need to do some mental rehearsals. So when you get back in your body, right, instead of experience the
Yeah.
current body, when he's saying you're in a whole new body, in a whole new environment, in a whole new time. So I did not tell anyone about this. Somehow in all the messaging and everything, on day number 3, that's like Monday. So Saturday we were at the retreat, Sunday we were at the retreat. On Monday, I tripped and fell and I hurt my shoulder. Like I fell on my shoulder, right? So I couldn't even lift my
Yeah.
arm. And then what happened was on the retreat, I asked for a nurse. The nurse didn't come, right? They didn't give me Motrin. They didn't give me an ice pack. So all day long, I stayed with the meditation. I almost thought on that day, Monday, that I won't go back on Tuesday with that arm not lifting up. Like I couldn't lift my arm up like this, right? It was like stuck. Like I couldn't even raise my arm. I had to, if I wore clothes, I had to put my arm down and put on the sleeve on the right hand side and then put on the sleeve on the left hand side. Then the thought arose that if people with stage 4 cancer can come every day, who am I with just an injured shoulder? I don't know what it is, but I'll heal it, right? So what he teaches is then you start to do mental rehearsals. When you want to heal something, you have, she's talking to somebody else.
Sorry about that, Poonam. Somebody was asking a question.
No worries. So when you want to heal your body, right, you have to, so now I'm starting to work, like not only did I have that, I tested positive for COVID. So I healed that first, right? So the following week after healing my COVID, then the pain started. I'm not able to lift. I couldn't even wipe anything. Like I couldn't even wipe. I had to use my left hand for everything. So when Louise said, make healing broth, I'm like, where am I going to lift that huge pot and make the healing broth? I won't be able to. So that's why I refused to make the healing broth the first week, because I couldn't even lift a pot, right? My right hand wasn't working. So what we do is we do mental rehearsals. So I started to imagine my arm wiping the counter, starting to imagine my arm like moving, and I couldn't raise, like picking up this bottle and putting it up, like unloading the dishwasher and putting things back in the cabinet. I couldn't lift my arm. Like this arm wouldn't lift. There was something had happened to this side of this arm. So I started focusing on imagining myself lifting and putting things in the cabinet. I started imagining myself. That's the tuning into new potentials. And we've talked about tuning into new potentials. Maybe you've missed some of the Facebook Live Q&As, but I've talked about tuning into new potentials. There's another meditation called changing boxes. So with a changing box, and that's why one of the Fridays I did a changing box, because I was healing my shoulder. The box I changed into was that my shoulder was working fine.
I just want to add something, because it's not only Joe Dispenza, it's not only other ones. I watched a movie yesterday based on true life of two Formula First race drivers.
Mhm.
That was about Niki Lauda and James Hunt. It was in 70s. They rehearsed before formula, they were like sleeping. They were showing the guy, James was just lying there and actually in his bed, visualizing the truck before the race, prior to
Mhm.
the race, and actually, switching his arms, like he's quickly changing the gears and putting the brakes. I mean, I watched this like, wow, this is what Joe Dispenza says. It's really
Mental
putting us
rehearsal.
straight. Yes.
We do, and now my arm is fine. I might go to an orthopedic just to check if the arm, what had happened, because it's strange, right? That you're not, I would like pick up my arm like this with the left arm to pick it up. So I was like, what happened? And it's fine. I can do left. Oh, so what happened was I did after my second changing boxes meditation, suddenly my arm started moving when I was in sleep. I was like, what? Francesca, thank you, Francesca. I see that your phone might get disconnected. But what I'm saying is do your mental rehearsal, okay? Eternally grateful for you. Bye. So I would strongly recommend anybody that wants to heal something. Does the mental practice work well in acquiring material needs? Yeah, it could. You could think of, I need a certain object, like I need a microphone. It works with that too. But you have to get to that vibrational state. And I did every day I do 2 hours of meditation. I do an hour of meditation in the morning. I do an hour and a half, 2.5 hours of meditation. So even that helped with all the healing. But it is possible. We can heal ourselves. We just have to give it our time and focus. So Ken, did you want to wrap this up?
Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna just get back to about the ego, getting rid of the ego. I agree. You can't get rid of the ego, but you can definitely make friends with it. And what I mean by that is, and I'm thinking back when I first started doing, I want to say, the work, it was like I was stuck in my head and I didn't realize what the ego was. I didn't realize my stinking thinking. I didn't understand my emotions. I didn't understand hardly anything other than the addiction, whether it be drugs, whether it be alcohol, food, whatever it was, I went to that for comfort. And so in my mind, it was like that was the answer. And at first, when I started doing the work, I was in resistance and I was in denial. And people said, stick around a while, come to 10 meetings, come to, and I can even, as I'm saying this with what I learned about my addictions years ago, I can even think of how I felt coming into the group that we're all in. And so there were different areas of my life that I needed to connect with. And I realized that was all ego. So the ego does change form, and the ego will do whatever it has to do to stay alive. And so, and I'm really learning that more and more and more. So in a sense, I never got rid of the ego, but I learned to deal with my feelings and my emotions in a whole new way. So, and then I learned that taking substances wasn't working. That was only numbing the different parts of me from feeling the very crucial things I needed to feel. So, and it's pretty much even, so I've learned that I had to stick around and I had to start feeling these things on my own through other like-minded people coaching me and actually helping me see the things that I wasn't seeing in the very same way that we do in this group. So it's just incredible how more and more gets revealed as we continue doing the work. And it's like putting a puzzle together. There are bits and pieces that we have to experience. And many times the ego will actually help me find the pieces because it will bring on the pain and suffering, the uncomfortability, the irritable areas, the parts that I don't like myself. So I'm thankful and have gratitude for my ego. So it's something where now, again, ego does have a play, but now I'm not in my head the way I used to be. I'm in my heart. Now that the love in my heart, the love's intelligence, the heart's intelligence now uses my thinking mind, but it doesn't come first. So I'm realizing how the mind and the heart work together. And even the ego has a way of playing this out, but the ego isn't running the show. It's not, it's just not running the show. So I've realizing more and more that I need all the different parts of me, but there's a way that they actually work off of one another because they're all needed. They're all a part of me. So I've learned to really love myself, accept myself. And then as I change those different areas inside of me, then I'm actually available to help others go through the very same things that I went through, but without the ego running the show. I'm learning and helping people in that way, the same way this group is working. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Eternally grateful, Ken. Thank you for all the service you provide.
You're
We
entirely
had
welcome.
Dennis, we had Dennis join us as well, right? Because of you. So amazing. Okay, we'll end at this point. I know it's getting late for Patricia. Have a good night, everyone, or good day. Fantastic day. Many blessings. Eternally grateful. It was like an amazing experience. Y'all have done an incredible job. So grateful, an honor and a privilege. Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Bye.
you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.